The Life Outdoors radio show with Nate Bailey. Everything you need to know about hunting Southern Oregon. Wake the wild within.
It's kind of evolved out of a bunch of different questions that I get from guys, both on YouTube and texting and PMs and DMs on Instagram and all those things. And so I thought I'd go over a few things for the new guys out there. And I'm gonna term this 5 things that could really ruin your barebow hunting. What should I say? Starting out or experience, that the 5 things that could ruin a new guy trying to get into traditional bow hunting. And I'll list off the 5 things, and then I'll go back through them and kind of explain them, and then go from there and see if you guys agree. If you guys don't agree, leave it in the comments below. If you do agree, or if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. But these are 5 things, and I'll probably come up with a lot of these lists here on the Barebow Hunter podcast. And I'm doing that also on the YouTube channel. We're going to work up those arrows, and I'm going to kind of cover 5 or 3 things depending on what we're doing. That way we can kind of keep it simple, and you guys can move through this content pretty good. So the 5 things. Misguided expectations is number 1. These are things that'll mess up your traditional bow hunting adventure, just trying to get into it. These are the 5 things. Misguided expectations, following someone else's road, nuking the crap out of it. In other words, making it harder than it is. Not knowing your why. Why are you getting involved in this? And then stepping outside the tribe. And what I mean by that is not listening to other people's input. So let's go ahead and go back up to number 1. And the first thing is misguided expectations. I think this is the biggest reason that most people probably get out of, once they've started traditional archery or traditional hunting, they think that it's going to be an easy road, or they see guys like Aaron Snyder out there just killing it, and they think that that's how it's going to work for them. And it can work for him that way, but you got to realize that Aaron has put a lot of time behind that bow and has some pretty professional guys that had helped him with his shot. He came over from the compound world as a super, super good shot from compounds. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great to look up to him. I really do. But at the same time, you gotta know what to expect out of your journey. And one of the big things that I would like to stress is, he puts tons of animals down a year. And if you think you're going to get into it and do that, you're going to have to invest a ton of time, a ton of effort, and a ton of money. You got to realize that Aaron does this for a living. This is how he promotes what he does. And it's really hard to do that for the average Joe. So come into the sport with some realistic expectations. Don't look at other people's Instagram feeds. Look at it against what you're already doing and what you can do, and take it as something that should be fun. It's a skill that needs to be, it's a learned skill, so you need to go through it and go through the ups and downs of it. And so that would be my biggest advice about expectations is don't place especially your first year, don't place a ton of huge expectations on yourself. Don't think that you have to fill an Instagram feed. That is not really what this is about. Now, don't get me wrong, that's the end goal, right? Is to get something on the ground. But the first year, I would not even worry about the things that you see going across and people shooting and how many animals are down, and I wouldn't worry about any of that. I would worry about concentrating on your skills, your hunt, your adventure, and all those things. So that's the first thing. That's the expectation, I think, that it could really ruin if you go in thinking that you're going to do this and that, and it could really ruin your experience. So don't do that. Don't do that. Don't have misguided expectations. Second, don't follow somebody else's road. So what I mean by that is just because one person uses this arrow, that bow, this setup, that setup, doesn't mean that that's going to be the perfect setup for you. Or even if they shoot 3 under and gap shoot, or they're all instinctive and they shoot split finger and they shoot a short bow or they shoot a long bow. There's a lot of guys, me included, out there putting stuff out, and it's pretty cool because there is a lot of diversity within the traditional archery community. There always has been. I mean, for thousands of years, the Mongols shot a different bow than the English the English archers, the English war bows. And so there's a lot of different diversity. You cannot just look at what somebody else is shooting and do what they're going to do. That's just not going to work. A lot of times you'll be shooting a completely different setup or a completely different way of sighting, or a completely different system than what they're going to do. So there is no real best out there. If I would say that if you're going to shoot some targets, long range for trad bows are like 40 plus. If you're going to shoot that long stuff, then you probably need to figure out some gap shooting and probably some longer bows and things like that. But those are generalizations. Those aren't cut in stone, and you shouldn't just follow whatever you think is placed on that. Another thing is, you don't have to do what people are doing on Instagram. You follow your own path. This is probably the best thing about traditional archery, is that you are being able to be out there and figure out what works for you. This is martial art. This is where science and art meets. And, there's a lot of different guys that shoot a lot of different ways. Some of them, Joel and those guys have a system set up, and it might work great for you. Don't beat yourself up if it doesn't. Just come up with something different. And Joel would be the first guy to tell you that. His system is amazing. I think everybody would get something out of it, but at the same time, it's not going to make everybody as good of a shot as he is. So I hope that came out right. That's the way it should sound, though, is there are different ways of doing things. I'm a fly fishing guide as well, and I teach a lot of people who have gone through so many different casting classes and have got so diluted with so many different ideas on how to cast that sometimes to teach them how to fish and how to cast out of my boat, sometimes I just have to take them back to, hey, don't overthink this stuff. Do it your way. If you drop your rod tip just a little bit further than the next guy, yeah, I know it's not going to win you any kind of form contest or anything like that. But what it will do is it'll make you an efficient fisherman, and you'll be able to fish better. It's the same thing with archery. You can nuke it to death. You can make it something that it shouldn't be, and or you could take it to that level. I mean, there's tinkerers out there, right? And we're all different in this. There's tinkerers that they can't be happy with, a shot that's off 2 inches, 3 inches, and they have to tinker until those arrows are all touching. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's awesome. But find your own path. That's what I'm trying to say, is do what you do. As long as it's ethical when you start hunting, you don't want to go out and willy-nilly just fling arrows either. You have to have some proficiency. And if you can't get that proficiency, then stick with your compound bow until you can, or a rifle or whatever. But understand that it is your path to go on. It's nobody else's. Don't let anybody else judge you for your path. Don't let somebody say, oh my gosh, you're shooting a ILF bow with a clicker and that's not trad. Whatever. Don't listen to that. That's ridiculous. Okay. The third thing, and it kind of goes into the same thing, is don't nuke the crap out of it. In other words, don't make it so enveloping that you can't actually shoot. I've seen guys do this. I think it creates a lot of target panic in people, is when they think that every little nuance, every little problem that they have, say in their bow hand or something like that, is what's causing their bad shot. And some form issues like that, those are true. I mean, the mechanics have to be there. But I've chased around shots for years trying to get my bow hand exactly perfect. And I found out that what you do is you just switch bows and find a bow that fits. That's taking it back to a simple thing is you have something that remains a constant every time that you pick it up. And if that doesn't work for you, then you figure out something else, but you don't sit there and try to tinker with it until it'll drive you nuts. It'll actually get you to where I think that's what causes a lot of people target panic. Every back tension is another one. If you've ever wrestled or played basketball or football or anything like that, all this stuff has some muscle memory and things. And once you get that down, you're going to know your body will take that over. My back knows when to let the arrow go. And so just kind of trust that intuition more than trying to fix it. So what I mean is sometimes it just calm down, shoot some arrows. Just calm down and shoot some arrows. Of course, if your form's way off, you don't want to do anything. Maybe you need to go get a coach. If you can't get your stuff right, maybe you need to go get a coach. Find a mentor or something like that. But don't sit there and YouTube and then critique your form and then try to straighten out your form without some good instruction. I shot with some pretty crappy form. My form's probably not good right now, according to some people, but it's the same every time. So it's good for me. So, and I keep it simple that way. Now, if I was to probably move that and shoot like some of what the push guys do and what Aaron does, some of those 50-yard shots at targets and stuff, I probably have to really work on my form and really work on something different. But I honestly don't see that in me. I'm more of a hunter than I am an archer. And the reason I like to bow hunt is because it puts me in the woods when the animals are in the woods, and I get to see a lot more animals. And the reason I like to bow hunt with a recurve is I get to get close to those animals and I get to know them a little bit more intimately. So that's my reason for being out there. So, to 30 yards, if I could keep it in a pie plate at 30 yards, I'm going to kill anything that I'm hunting. So that's what I'm after. But, like I said, that's my keeping it simple. Maybe your keeping it simple is moving away from doing what I do and going, I'm going to start gap shooting. And it kind of goes back to making your own road, right? It all goes back to the same thing.
Hunting Southern Oregon. The Life Outdoors radio show on Gold Country Radio with Nate Bailey. Keep it tuned right here for more ways to perfect your craft. Coming up next, Wake the Wild Within.
Want to get your business noticed? Sponsor a show on KKFO Gold Country Radio on 103.3 FM and create awareness through on-air announcements, our online stream at goldcountryradio.org, and our podcasts that live on forever. Your message reaches a broad local audience while also targeting listeners who choose to tune in to the shows they love. Plus, we promote your sponsorship across our website and social media. For more information, email goldcountryradio@gmail.com. Call 541-238-6989 or visit goldcountryradio.org. Gold Country Radio, your message heard locally and beyond.
The Life Outdoors radio show with Nate Bailey. Everything you need to know about hunting Southern Oregon. Wake the Wild Within.
All right, so number four. This is another thing that can really ruin why you that could really ruin your journey in the traditional bow hunting. If you're new at this, is know your why. Know why you're doing it. It's not something that you do to fill up your Instagram. Okay, it's not something that you do to just because it might be popular or it might be something that all your buddies are doing. You really got to understand why you're doing it, why you want to shoot trad. There's a bunch of great reasons why. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. I think everybody should try. But what I am saying is if you don't know why you're doing it, you'll probably go back to your compound real quick because it is hard. When Aaron called it a struggle stick, he was right. And it's a real struggle. And if you ask Aaron, he went through his own struggles with it. And he's an exception. He's above and beyond most hunters, and he's got more time to do it and more places to do it and some great places to do it. And still it was a struggle for him. So understand your why, because that's what's going to keep you in it. Part of my reason, so I have several whys. The biggest reason is probably because I like the simplicity of it. I shot compound for a couple years, and it drove me absolutely nuts. But that's the kind of guy I am. I'm not a tinkerer. When I shoot a rifle, open sights work good for me. If I have too much to tinker with, I mess it up usually. If I have to sit there and think of MOA and then try to work up a load and all those things, that's usually not me. I'd rather spend my time hiking and looking and calling and interacting. That's probably why I like the animals that I like to hunt. So my why is it's simplicity to hunt. It's a hunting tool. My second why is it brings me into seasons, and this is all bow hunting. But back when I started, bow hunting compounds wasn't that much more popular than hunting with a recurve. And my grandfather's hunted with recurves, so that's all they had. So, I wanted to be a bow hunter because we were calling in elk during rifle season and just for fun and checking them out. And I thought, man, this is what I want to do. I want to be around these elk. So that was my big why. Another big why is, and once I got into it, my whys kind of broadened. They didn't change. They just got bigger. Is I found out that I was in with a group of guys that looked at tradition as being something that is very cool and important, and I'm big into that. That's why I'm with Compton's. Those guys have carried this forward, and they're trying to help other people get into it, and they're trying to do it without being turds about it. And, but at the same time, I feel a lineage that I'm a part of all the way back to, the archers that we don't know their names, clear back into mankind. So, it's kind of a cool thing to be a part of that group that has almost transcends time. All of humankind has had a bow and arrow in its hand, and in one form or another. And to be a part of that in 2019 makes you a part of something way bigger than yourself, and I really like that aspect of it. Another thing is the mentorship and the camaraderie that's within traditional archery. I know it's kind of an old thing. It's to have a mentor, and kind of the mentor and apprentice type ideas are something that we just look at movies nowadays. We don't really think of it, but traditional archery still has that in it. And I think that's an awesome thing. I really, that's a big deal to me, is to have that step up. My son's just getting into traditional archery or traditional bow hunting, and he's going to be hunting with a recurve for the first time this year. He's got one of Wade Morris's Mongol, and I'll be hunting with the Yeti, and he's jumped into it, and it's going to be cool because he's kind of my apprentice, and I've apprenticed underneath people. There was a guy that nobody knows, and his name was Phil Dimmick, and he's kind of the one that helped me out get into it pretty good. And then there's, of course, Jerry Goins, and of course, all these guys that I've been around have helped me get into this, and I kind of fall underneath their tutelage, and then I pass that on to my son or whoever else is coming into it that I'm helping into it. So there's that tradition too. So that's not to touch on the trad vein or the feather thing, but that's probably the biggest reason I would run feathers until blacktail season when it's really wet, is just because there's a tradition in it. Unless I find that the trad veins are that much quieter, it might be worth me running those, just hunting, and then shoot my traditional arrows, at the practice too, because I want to be most effective I can be in the woods. And advancing in archery is not something that is new to archery, so new to trad archery. So that might be something I look at down the road. But so know your why. Really understand that your why is probably what's going to keep you into this. When you have an empty freezer, you're going to have to know your why, or else you'll go back to compounds, which is not a problem either, guys. I don't want to say that, you didn't make it, so you're going to go back. No, I'm a hunter first. Remember, I'm a hunter first. But if you really want to do your traditional archery, then you're going to have to probably have some hunts that you're not going to get anything. That's just the way it is, period. So, yeah, I would have, let me see. If I was able to hold on a deer this year, I probably would have killed it without having to draw in front of him. I missed a turkey, and I probably could have got a bear. So those are all three animals that I could have probably filled my freezer with if I'd been hunting with a compound. They definitely would have been if I could use a firearm, which I could use a firearm on, except for the deer. That was in bow season. But so you got to really know that why, or else it really will move you away. And I'm telling you, it moves me. It makes me think about things. You know, especially that bear, because as I reviewed the footage and started looking back on it, I kept thinking, man, there goes about 6 elk calves and how many fawns, deer fawns, are walking away right now because I would just want to shoot it with the trad bow and I didn't kill it with a rifle. It became a moral issue to me, and I think I'm not going to ever let that happen again. Until the bear populations get down, I think we have such a problem that I'm going to start hunting them with rifles just out of conservation. So, and we'll do an episode on that later. Jerry and I are going to talk about it because he has a different view on it. So Jerry and I are going to talk about that. And number 5, stepping outside of the tribe. So that will really mess you up as well. If you think you're going to do this and be a loner and do it on your own, that really is not going to help you out. I hear guys talking about that, but everybody has somebody out there teaching them. So you still are part of the tribe, and you're part of that barebow hunter tribe. And so when you guys when you guys get into this, find people that will support you in it. Even the guys that are way up there have people around them that are well known, that get to hunt a lot, still have people around them to support them in it. Because I guarantee you, every bad shot, and if you hunt long enough, you're going to have a bad shot. Every one of those makes you really second guess whether or not you're going to stick with this and if it's going to be something that you want to do. So you have to be a part of that tribe. Another thing is the tribe keeps you in check. I mean, if it's through all these checks and balances that we talk, I hate to break trad veins up again, but sometimes the tribe could be a pain in the butt too, over something as simple as a plastic vein. But still at the same time, we are talking about it, and we're helping each other through it. And even though it might frustrate the living tar out of you, you're a part of traditional archery when this stuff comes up. And I know some people try to say, well, the tribe isn't worth being a part of, but I'm just going to be a traditional archer. Well, I would ask you to reconsider that, because you have something to help bring into it. If you have a disagreement with what's going on within mainstream traditional archery, this is something that's been going on for thousands of years. It's the same thing. So understand that you have input in that as well. It's not just like you're against the world. That's not it. You may get a lot of resistance, but most of the resistance are from people that really don't know. Most of the guys that have been around this stuff long enough keep an open mind enough to it because of they've seen so much other things go on that don't let the tribe get you down is pretty much what I want to say. Also, try to understand and try to be a part of you got to understand that there's a reason that you got into this, and that reason, if it's good, it's something that we as human beings need to advance, right? I mean, if it's a good thing, we need to I believe it's our human duty to pass it on to somebody else. If it's something that could help somebody else, and I've seen traditional archery save people's lives to where they are not suicidal anymore, that the flight of that arrow is therapy, that being around other people is the camaraderie of it. I've watched people that thought that they were going to get out of the woods, come back into the woods because of it. all these things. So being part of the tribe is something very, very, very big in my opinion, my book. Again, remember too that we all, everything that we do. So if Aaron shoots trad vanes, that's awesome. He's on one spectrum of that. If somebody else wants to shoot a self arrow or a reed arrow with a bone head, that's the other spectrum. But it's all part of the same tribe, and so we understand that by advancing this, a rising tide raises all ships, and what happens is people will going to find where they're going to fit within that tribe, and traditional archery will grow. And I know some people don't want to see magnesium bows out there, or magnesiums. There's probably not many of those, but aluminum riser bows out there, and ILF limbs and stuff. Well, who cares? That's part of that tribe mentality. Somebody's on that other edge, and somebody wants to just hunt with a U-wood bow and make their own arrows. I think that's cool too. So those are the things that I think those are the 5 reasons or 5 things that could really derail your road into traditional bow hunting. Is don't get caught up in those 5 things. Understand who you are in this. Understand why you're doing it. Don't have misguided expectations. Don't follow what everybody else is doing. Do what works for you. Sometimes making it simple is better. Know why you're there, and remember that you're part of this tribe. Now, I'd like to. That pretty much sums up what I'm going to say today. Other than the fact that if you guys are enjoying barebow hunter, I would appreciate if you could give me some comments and some feedback. I really would appreciate it. It helps us keep going here at Barebow Hunter. It keeps us on. Even if we have one guy say, "Hey, look, you're helping me," that keeps me motivated to bring this to you. Another thing that I'd like to ask you guys is if you guys could give us some ideas on what you want to hear from us. We want to bring to you. Because some things we take way for granted. I've been doing this since I was 16, and I'm now 48. So that's 32 years. So I've been doing it for a while. So there's some things that I take for granted. It's nice having my son starting to come up, because he brings up all sorts of questions that I think, people are all going to know, just because I'm old and crotchety about it sometimes. But, please bring that up. Let it talk to us about what you want to hear. And also, I'm going to have, we're going to do a whole series on getting ready for our elk hunt. Jerry and I, again, we drew the same unit again. We have 4 hunters going this year, and probably more. We got a couple other guys I know that have that unit that we'll probably visit with. And, Jerry did tell me that this is his last hurrah at elk hunting, so we're really pushing to get him into an elk this year, and we'll talk a little bit about why that is, and what he's looking at going into this season, and some of those things. So I drew the tag. I probably won't shoot. I'll probably do the same thing and just really try to get him into a bull this year. So you guys, please let us know what you think. And until then, I hope all your arrows fly straight and you find yourself with the sunshine at your face and the wind always at your face. All right. Until then, take care.
Thanks for listening to the Life Outdoors radio show. Tune in next Sunday evening at 7 p.m. to continue to hone the primitive skills that man has always been meant to master. Hunting Southern Oregon. The Life Outdoors radio show with Nate Bailey. Wake the wild within.